Kevin, why do you have all these balloons in your room?
Hey, I'm getting ready to celebrate my new niece's birthday come October, and I'm just getting prepared months in advance. You know, sometimes I just like to blow them up and then just like hold the two bits and make it eke out together. That's right. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
High quality comedy. Dude, check this out.
Getting some important work done in here.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready to start.
Gosh, okay. You're listening to Dude Check This Out, episode 26.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dude Check This Out. We're hanging out here, back in my room, back in the studio, twisting the knobs, making some noise, getting ready for the show. Oh, yeah. I hope you guys are doing well today, or tonight, whenever you're listening, right? I can't control you. You are the master of your own destiny, and I hope you know that. I hope that you know that you can do anything you put your mind to as long as you put your mind to it. That's right. There's no other things that can hold you back besides your mind. That's right. I'm not going to back down from this. I believe it with all my heart, but more importantly, all my mind. Today I got my co-host, as always, Noah Stewart.
Yeah, it's me.
He kept giving me the side eye.
Refusing to speak until you introduced me.
I think that's a good kind of mode of operation because that really allows me to just kind of ramble.
Just go.
Just kind of going for. I like to gauge your your opinion of me,
Of where this is going.
because I could just really tell that you were not convinced that our listeners are capable of anything.
Well, I was ready.
They can fly.
I was ready to start piling in on there with you.
Oh,
but I refused to speak until I was introduced.
that's right. That is the power that the host has. They allow them to speak, but only when spoken to the first time.
Yeah.
Now you can speak whenever you want. Do I have the power to take that away from you? Can I unintroduce you?
I mean, I guess you have the power, so.
But how would I unintroduce you? Would I just say, "Oh, there he goes"? You just declare that you walk away and then you can't speak anymore?
That sounds right.
I want to know how to unintroduce somebody. How would one do that?
Tweet at us at dude_check_this on Twitter.
How to unintroduce
How
someone?
do you unintroduce someone? That'll be the test to see who's listening. We should have put this at the end of the episode, so they have to listen to the entire episode.
So
and then
we're also going to put another question.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode. So you make sure you stick around, otherwise you won't. We'll know because you won't have tweeted at us. Not that anyone's tweeted. No, Brett's tweeted at us before.
That's true. Brett has tweeted at us before, and Johnny Boy.
Yeah, Jonathan has.
Yeah.
He's liked some of our things. Thanks, Johnny Boy. I did like how Brett was tweeting at us when you were when Twitter was just letting everybody know
that I was building that Hatsune Miku playlist. Yeah, that was totally by accident. I think because my YouTube settings were set to being tied to our Twitter account. So I was building that playlist, and 25 songs in, I get that notification from Brett saying boy, are you having some kind of Miku problem over here?
Okay?
And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I switched over to the homepage on that account and went, whoa. Oh no.
Yeah, so thanks, Brett. We know that
thanks
you at least follow us. I don't know if you listen, but you at least follow us on Twitter, and that's what counts. Yeah, so this is Dude Check This Out. It's where Noah and I give each other stuff because there's just too much stuff out there.
There's so much.
Noah, how you doing? Got any exciting news from the last 2 weeks? Daniel's not in the room with us, unfortunately. Normally, he just hangs out in the little corner, but today he's doing work or playing Monster Hunter. I'm not sure.
Probably Monster Hunter. I would assume Monster Hunter at this point. I don't know, hanging out, having a fun time playing a video game for this episode. But also watching some good Netflix content. The most recent season of Voltron, season season 7
of
I
Voltron.
believe. Yeah, Voltron Legendary Defender.
Okay.
On Netflix. They did it's the arc where they go back to Earth, and it's pretty cool, very epic. I think we're 2 episodes away from finishing the new series from the creators of Futurama. Disenchantment.
Oh yeah, I saw Movie Bob's review of that.
Oh, I didn't know you did a review.
Yeah, he
of
did.
That yet.
I'm curious though. Give me your like short 1 to 2 minute yay or nay. Like, give me a hot take of that.
Yeah.
Even though this isn't what I.
This
gave
isn't
you to
the
do.
Disenchantment
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. But I'm just curious, real quick.
So it's basically Futurama. Matt Groening, I think that's his name, got all the guys that made Futurama.
Yeah.
Got them back together, and we're like, hey, let's make another show like that, but instead of a future setting, it's all fantasy.
Yeah. So instead of like
medieval fantasy.
Yeah, parodying sci-fi, it's parodying fantasy.
Yeah, which like there is a decent amount of parody, but even like with Futurama, they do a good job of like kind of referencing stuff in that genre without obviously parodying.
Gotcha. So it's not like
death.
straight satire.
Yeah, because there's an episode about halfway through. It's a 10 episode season, the first season of Disenchantment. About halfway through, they do a like Hansel and Gretel, which is Gingerbread House.
Yeah.
Episode, but it's not what you'd expect.
Okay.
They flip it in a way that's really interesting.
Cool.
So I really appreciated that. I know a lot of people, Jordan especially, has a problem with the elf character, Elfo. Because a lot of people were saying like, he looks like Bart Simpson but an elf, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of their style. Like all the characters kind of have like that similar face. I didn't really see that as much, but I can see how people would see that.
Yeah.
But
did you like it? You thought it was good?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's got that same sense of humor that all their other shows do. But it's also doing the Netflix thing where it's like kind of building a larger story around the edges of like the fun episodic adventures they have.
Yeah.
But it's also doing the Netflix thing where like almost every episode ends with a cliffhanger that encourages you to keep binging because it's Netflix.
Yeah.
So, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I like it.
Cool.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Disenchantment.
Yeah, you go check it out. Anything else new, exciting going on in your life?
Yeah, watching TV and reading a lot of comics. We don't have to talk about those. But what's going on with you?
Yeah. Well, I just got a new job. I don't think I've talked about that on the podcast. So now I'm doing some city civil work stuff and fun story. So I'm doing like water and like wastewater and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the like big ravines or not ditches, but I'm talking the bayous. That's the word. The bayous got a lot of erosion and stuff during Harvey. And so I went out one day to kind of like look at one with another guy that I work with to kind of like meet with some contractors, see like how they're going to do it and what they're going to do. And while we were out there was like a grass fire that started
while you were there.
Yeah, so we were walking around and then we just see these like 2 kids like kind of like goofing off and running back and forth on the other side of the bayou. We're like, what is going on? And then we see like a grass fire has started. And so me, a guy that I worked with named Vu, and 2 or 3 other people were just looking like, oh, I guess we should call the fire department, right? And it got pretty, not like completely out of hand, but it started like catching the fence and other stuff on fire. It was pretty insane. So it was my first time like going out into the field, but the out into the field was like the other side of 529 in Queenston. Like It's up in Cypress, right? Because we do work in Houston. So it's like you go by Langham on 529, take a left on Barker Cypress, and it was like down in that neighborhood. There was a grass fire.
Jeez. I mean, there is a lot of open field kind of areas.
Because I was right on the bayou.
Yeah.
So, but I got a new job, which is cool.
Yeah.
Haven't been working there long, but it's fine. It's good. Been playing a lot of Monster Hunter.
Yeah, you have.
Put like 25, 30 hours in that game in like 2 weeks. But also the new Hollow Knight DC just dropped, and now I'm torn on what to do with my time. Because I really want to play Hollow Knight, but I also really want to play Monster Hunter.
There's also lots of Monster Hunter to play.
There's like hundreds of hours of Monster Hunter that I have to get to, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But those aren't the video games we're here to talk about.
Oh.
The video games we're here to talk about are the ones, and by ones I mean the one, that I gave Noah this week, and that was Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. game is pretty dope.
It's a good time.
Yeah. So Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, came out on the N64, surprise, in 2000, the year 2000. And it is actually the 11th Kirby game.
It's a lot of Kirby games.
So before the N64, so I guess that's what, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color?
I don't think there were any Game Boy Color Kirby games. I could be wrong. I believe it was just original Game Boy and then Game Boy Advance, I think. No Kirby games for Game Boy Color come to mind, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Don't
so
me.
We'll say in 3 consoles, including a handheld, there were 10 Kirby games.
Yeah.
In just
it's a lot.
Like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and the Game Boy. They came out with 10, and then Kirby 64 was the 11th, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and you said it came out in the year 2000?
Yep.
For N64? That makes sense, because most Kirby games tend to come out toward the end of a system's life cycle, at least for consoles.
Okay.
I think handhelds are a little more during.
Yeah, it came out, I think, like June in the States, and a little later in Europe, and a little bit earlier in Japan, yeah. But Kirby games, this game included, are kind of like easy, fun games. They're not super challenging, and I know you know more about this, but like the designer of the game, when he made it, it was like it's supposed to be kind of a fun, just easy-going time. It's not supposed to have like really challenging platforming or really challenging combat or anything like that.
Especially for the time, because character 2D platformers at that time were like Mega Man and Castlevania, games that were, hailed for their extreme difficulty that you would just hit your head against until you prevailed. Kirby was just a lot more breezy. You could get through most of its levels in one try.
Yeah. And so it's definitely like a step kind of away from Frostpunk or any other games that we've played on here, where it's supposed to be just a good time.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be super challenging.
I like having a good time playing video games.
Right. And so Kirby, for those who don't know, is just a big pink puffball guy that sucks up people and then steals their powers.
Yeah. It's I think Kirby's Adventure on an NES, the opening cutscene is here's how you draw Kirby. You draw a circle, draw some little feet, little hands, and a face, and that's Kirby.
Yeah.
Very, very simple character design.
Yeah, so it's super cute, super fun, and that's pretty much it. So the plot of Kirby 64, right? Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. We start on, what is it called? Ripple Star, I believe?
Before the first world?
Yeah, so Ripple Star is a star inhabited by fairies, and their great treasure, the crystal, and dark matter has come and it's invaded and taken over, and it possesses people and makes them all evil and bad.
That's like the crazy shadow eyeball thing.
Yeah, they're dark matter. And so Ribbon, the fairy that kind of accompanies Kirby, takes the great crystal and flees, but dark matter chases her and blows it up and scatters the crystal shards across the galaxy. And Ribbon lands on Popstar, where Kirby is. And she's like, oh no, I lost all my stuff. And Kirby's like, don't worry, I'll help you. She's like, all right, cool, let's go get the crystal shards.
And this is all, of course, conveyed not through dialogue.
Yeah, it's all nonverbal cutscenes, but this is pretty much
all
what happened.
Body language.
Yeah, she lands and she's like all sad, and Kirby's like, don't worry, I'll help, and all smiley. And then she gets smiley, and then they are off to the races. Yeah. And dark matter ends up possessing Kirby's friends, and then Kirby beats them and kicks the dark matter out and saves them. And so Kirby, Waddle Dee, which is a guy that looks like Kirby, but he's brown and doesn't have a mouth.
Yeah, traditionally a Kirby enemy.
Yeah.
In the earlier games.
Adeline,
the painter lady?
Yeah, the painter lady.
Yeah.
She's cool. And then DDD, who is normally like the big bad guy in Kirby games, or at least a bad guy.
King DDD.
They all team up with Kirby and Ribbon, and then they jump through the crystal shards to all the other planets and collect all the crystal shards and then go beat up dark matter, and that's the end of the game.
Pretty simple.
Yep, that's the whole. There's no twists and turns. There's no surprises. There's no real emotional drama. It's just we're cute good guys, and that's the evil bad guy, and we're gonna go beat him, and that's it.
It's my aesthetic, man.
It is your aesthetic. All right, so that's pretty much all you need to know about this game and Kirby in general. So now that we've kind of gotten that all out of the way, Noah, let me get your hot take.
I got my hot take. Yeah, Kirby games I really have a great time with. I've been playing Kirby games for a while. I mean, I grew up with some Kirby games. Probably my favorite growing up was for the Game Boy Advance, Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland, which was a remake of Kirby's Adventure for the NES, which was like, I guess, the first traditional Kirby game where like Kirby sucks dudes into his body and then absorbs their power.
Consumes them.
Yeah, consumes them and attains their power. And that game was really, really fun. Like most Kirby games, it was very short.
Yeah.
So I would, at a point, just like sit down, beat it in like 2 hours to an hour and a half, and
feel good about yourself.
Have a good time with that. And that game, especially because King DDD is like the main bad guy in that game, but it's not till like the very end you have like final boss with him, and then you have to like both team up to fight the actual bad guy.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But yeah, Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland. The other one that I probably spent the most time with was Kirby's Canvas Curse for the DS.
Okay.
Which that one was excellent, where you're not directly controlling Kirby, but you have to like draw little paths for Kirby to roll on because the Canvas Curse robbed him of his arms and legs, so he's just a little rolly ball.
That sounds fun.
That's one of the best DS games, I think. That one I also would just play over and over again because it was short and it was fun. So yeah, I really, really enjoy Kirby games, but I did not grow up with an N64. I was a PlayStation boy.
Yep.
So like we grew up together, so I always saw you had Kirby. But it was a single-player game, so I didn't really play it that much.
Yeah, did we ever play any there's like 3 mini games. Do you remember any of those?
I don't really have any fond memories of... I think I have like vague visions in my head of like when you mentioned there being multiplayer in that game, but nothing specific.
Because the 3 games are... we should have played them.
Yeah. Whoops.
There's one that's like you have to hop 100 little circles. And you have to hit like A or B to hop around them. Okay. Another one is everyone's in a line. You're trying to catch fruit in a basket. And like pushing people out of the way.
I assume you're playing as like Kirby's friends.
You're playing
like, as the other
as one of the 4. Yeah, Kirby, DDD, Adeline, or Waddle Dee.
Yeah.
And then the last one is like there's a bunch of platforms that eventually will fall down, and you're like trying to be the last one remaining on the platforms.
Okay. Would you say one of those is the best one?
I mean, I haven't played them since forever, but I think the one I remember having the most fun with was when the platforms were falling, and the one I had the least fun with was catching the fruit. Because catching the fruit, all you could do was move side to side, and the platform one was at least some like actual maneuvering kind of combat, I guess. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah. We'll have to try those.
Yeah, we'll have to do sometime later. But back to your hot take.
But yeah, my hot take. Yeah, so I've had a lot of experience with Kirby before this, but I never got to play this one, and it was kind of a blemish on my record, if you could say. I'd always wanted to play this game, but I never owned an N64. Right. So I never got the chance. But this was I went over to my girlfriend Jordan's house, and I played most of it there because she's always owned an N64, and then I played the rest of it over here like an hour ago.
Shh, don't let them see behind the curtains. Don't let them see
the scenes. But yeah, it's a lot like the other Kirby games. Boss fights are a lot easier, I felt like, than some other Kirby games, but also a little harder to go back to with current HD televisions on an N64. Yeah, because the lag is a bit of a problem with having a standard definition signal going into an HD television. But I don't want that to hinder the game too much, because I know it's not the game's fault. Yeah. But yeah, I had a good time playing the Kirby game.
Sweet. Kirby is super fun, really breezy, and just makes you feel good all the time. Yeah. All right, well, the big draw in this game, obviously, is in this game, which I don't think happens in any other Kirby game, is Kirby can eat powers, or eat people, or whatever, and consume their powers. And then he can like spit it out as a little star that he holds over his head that he will throw at other enemies, and it will combine powers. Yeah. And so you can like mix and match powers, which I don't think you can do in any other Kirby game.
I think the most recent one, Kirby All-Stars, I think there is a combining powers mechanic in that game, but it doesn't have the like spit them out as a star and throw them at other dudes. I think you just absorb other dudes and you combine them inside you.
Okay, cool. But there's like I think 7 different powers. There's fire, ice, bomb, needle, cutter, electricity or lightning, and rock. And there's 7 different powers, and you can combine them either just with themselves. So if you have like fire, you turn to a little fireball. And you take double fire, you turn to this like giant big fire bird man thing. Or like with rock, you turn to a little rock Kirby that walks slow. If you get double rock, you turn to a giant rock Kirby that walks slow, right? But you can also mix and match. And so do you have any that really stuck out to you, the ones that you found yourself always going back to, the ones that you thought were the most interesting, or ones that you thought were really dumb? I just like, this is the big kind of draw to the game.
So I think initially one of my favorite powers was the double fire.
Yeah.
That one's crazy just because you turn into like a fire missile that just screams across the screen. And especially in earlier levels, I felt like I could just spam that power and like almost not even have to interact with the level at all. I would just kill whatever was in my path.
Yep.
And just end up at the end of the level and walk through the door like doo-doo-doo. So that power was really fun, but also the bomb and cutter power is probably one of the most useful, overpowered powers in the game.
Oh, yeah. The powers are definitely not balanced.
Absolutely not.
There's some that are really terrible, and then some that are like way better. So like the bomb and cutter is you throw these little ninja stars that explode, and they travel across the screen, but it doesn't show it, so it looks like you just throw it, and then they just appear and blow people up.
Yeah, and you can rapid fire, which is essential, because a lot of the stuff in that game does not really have... There's not a lot of get up and go to some of the powers, let's say. Like Cutter, just any... Like, Cutter by itself is
the weirdest power. So, like, Kirby is a little pink puffball guy, and he walks around, and Cutter power is like... It looks like a little boomerang.
Yeah.
And when you use it, Kirby like leans back and then throws his face, like his arms and his face, like half of his body turns to a little boomerang and shoots out, and he's left as this little egg person with 2 legs.
Yeah.
And then you kind of waddle around until your face comes back. It's very strange.
It's very good. It's a great looking... it's funny. Not very useful.
No, it's kind of the worst.
Less useful than some of the other powers, but it's very fun to look at.
Yeah, it's so strange.
One of the powers I didn't think about this till now. One of the powers I miss being in there in earlier Kirby games would be the sword enemy type.
Yeah.
So you'd like absorb them and you'd get like a sword. And that one's also just very nostalgic because you get that when you fight Meta Knight as a boss, and you have like a little sword duel.
Yeah.
It's always really cool. There are some power combinations in this that give you a sword, like what Fire and Cutter give you the flame sword that you can like swing around, or you can like hold over your head and chuck it, or just hold it over your head and hit stuff that's over your head. It's really, kind of really funny looking.
Yeah, sidestep as Kirby holds a sword over his head. Yeah.
And then there was the other one that I didn't find out about until I came over here, and you and Daniel kept telling me to do it, was Electric and Cutter.
Yep.
Which is a little like electric lightsaber, Darth Maul, double-bladed lightsaber kind of situation. And the animation is also great because he just does like a little like Darth Maul like flip around.
Yeah, it kind of spin it all around his body. Yeah. It's awesome. Darth Kirby is super cool. But he has a yellow lightsaber, so I don't know where that puts him.
Where that falls in the morality spectrum of
Jedi. It's not red, so he's definitely not Sith. But yellow is in the red family.
I want to say in one of the more recent story additions to the Knights of the Old Republic MMO, I want to say there was a character in that had a yellow lightsaber. I don't know where he fell
was it
on
a pink
Jedi
puff
politics,
ball?
But yes, it was. Yeah, George Lucas loves pink puffballs.
Yeah, I am curious where Kirby would fall on Jedi politics. Right, that's the real question here. He has a lightsaber, so he is a Jedi.
Sure.
Well, or he's a robot man with 4 arms.
I mean, I would say Kirby is generally for justice.
I think Kirby is generally for eating things.
I mean, yes. like, ultimately, Kirby just kind of floats through life. No pun intended.
It was intended.
Gosh dang it. But, yeah, I'd say he's ultimately just a breezy guy. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, he fights for good.
He does. He fights for good, justice, and eating until he can't eat anymore.
Eating mom's apple pie.
That's right. That's what what Superman always said.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my favorites. So Bomb and Cutter, obviously, that's probably the one that I used the most growing up because it was just so good and it made me feel like a ninja, which was cool. That and then the Lightning Cutter. But one that I really liked was the Lightning and Ice is probably the most interesting. So Lightning and Ice, I want everyone that's listening right now, if you haven't played the game, to think about what you would do, right? You're a game designer. Like, okay, I need to
Mr.
combine.
Sakurai himself.
Yeah, I need to combine powers. I want it to be fun and interesting. So we have lightning and ice, right? Those two powers. What could I do? Now you should have an idea in your head. If you haven't played the game before. And what he did is he's like, okay, well, Kirby can transform into things. So I'm going to transform Kirby into a refrigerator, and he's going to spit out food at the bad guys.
Yeah. Electricity and cold, right?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's by far and away the most interesting and hilarious thing, because Kirby literally turned into a fridge, and then he opens his door and then spits food and stuff out at people.
It's a great animation.
It's awesome.
That I'd say most of the ice powers are really fun to look at. Like if you get double ice and you turn into a big snowball and you like start rolling across the stage and you absorb enemies. You don't run them over and they get hit and explode. You absorb them into the snowball, and then once you pop out of the snowball, all the enemies pop out at once and explode.
Yeah. So that or ice and bomb. You put a little bomb on your head and then turn into a snowman and waddle around.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
That was pretty good. So you put a bomb on your head and then you turn into a snowman where Kirby is like the base of the snowman and the bomb is like the head of the snowman.
Oh, man, that's
and he waddles around and then it eventually explodes and then it leaves Kirby there with like black ash on his head. And he like shakes it off and then he's good. It's pretty fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah. Or another really good one that involves Kirby's head is lightning and fire. So last time when I talked about it, I said lightning and or fire and ice I thought was this, but lightning and fire, I don't know if you ever did this combination. That's the one where Kirby grabs a little sheet and rubs his head really, 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 really fast until the static electricity catches his head on fire, and then he like runs around freaking out all on fire.
Oh man, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
So lightning and fire is pretty fantastic.
Oh my goodness. I have to do that.
Then bomb and rock is a good one too. It's a little dynamite that he throws. And you didn't figure this out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But if you like hold down when you do that, Kirby like puts on this cute little hard hat, and then he's protected from the dynamite.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was doing that while I was hanging out with Jordan, and I don't think even she knew about the hard hat thing. Because I was like, this keeps like killing me. Why is this good? And she was like, I don't know, that one's bad. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah, you can, if you hold down, he puts on this little hard hat, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Very cute.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a ton more combinations that if you ever play the game, it's really, really fun. It's on Wii Virtual Console.
Yes. I almost got it for the Wii U Virtual Console, but we ran into some technical issues with our Wii U, so we just opted for the original N64 release.
Right. So, are there any other cool power combinations that you liked or ones that you thought were dumb?
Most of those are probably my favorite. I'd say like most of the rock ones I ended up like they're cool looking but not very utility.
Yeah.
Like double rock turns you into like the big Kirby golem, which is fun. You can just kind of like waltz through ground parts of the level, but anything involving platforming, that's just a no-go.
Yeah, it's just kind of worthless. Yeah, that, and then the rock and cutter is kind of cool. It turns you into like different animals that are apparently from a past Kirby game, but then you like can't maneuver at all. You're invincible,
unless you're the bird.
Yeah, it's just not very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely some that are great, and then some that I just think are pretty silly.
Yeah.
But you know, who says Kirby games have to be balanced?
Certainly not Mr. Sakurai.
All right, well, that's kind of all of those things. So how about we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what really makes a Kirby game, the aesthetic, the fun, just how it makes you feel, all that good stuff.
Kirby loves all those things, including meat and potatoes.
Mostly meat and potatoes. Thank you. So how did you just, compared to other Kirby games you've played, how did you enjoy or compare this Kirby game's feel and aesthetic to past Kirby games.
So right off the bat, it definitely felt like a Kirby game. The Kirby aesthetics just, scream into your face with bright colors and fun times.
Yep.
So it was, a lot like some other Kirby games I've played, obviously. At first, I felt like this one was like a little easier, a little breezier than some other Kirby games, especially like the bosses, man. Like, depending on what powers you get, you can just cheese some of these bosses like crazy. But it's kind of just an issue with the N64 in general. I know a lot of people our age, millennials, let's say, have a fondness for the N64, but compared to its contemporaries, mostly the PlayStation, and just with the very nature of the PlayStation being a disc-based system and the N64 being a cartridge-based system, while having an advantage with shorter loading times because it doesn't have to load off of a disc, the N64 just runs like garbage.
Yeah, I will be upfront and honest. That N64 was like my first console, right? That was the game, the system that I loved and grew up on and like played the heck out of. But it does run pretty poorly.
That thing chugs.
Yeah, but the games themselves aren't really that complicated or advanced.
Yeah, and the like first party Nintendo games run the best on them.
Yeah.
And look the best.
But definitely Kirby isn't as bad as other games.
Yeah, like
that really chug.
Yeah, because I think a kind of a signature of the N64's graphical style, especially for third-party games, like 3D polygonal games where you're like kind of running around a big open space.
Mm-hmm.
The N64 fog is a very prominent figure of N64.
Yeah, like Perfect
games.
Dark or GoldenEye or whatever. Yeah,
just because it doesn't have the graphical capability to have a good draw distance.
Yeah. So
you're just constantly walking around in fog. Thankfully, this game doesn't have that. So that's not really a ding against this game. More just my issues with the N64. I'm glad I have this platform to get that out there. But yeah, and also, running it on a standard definition signal through an HD TV is not
the
best. I may have had a better time with it if I had played it on the Virtual Console. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, compared to other Kirby games, I probably still like those other Kirby games a little better than this. That might just be my nostalgia talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like those games are a little snappier, just with the advantage of being on like the Game Boy Advance or the DS, which are much more like flat graphical styles instead of having to deal with the 3D polygonal styles, which has its own batch of problems as far as just complexity of graphics generation and game design.
Yeah,
sounds like I'm really down on this game now, but I did still really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, because I will say that since this was my first Kirby game, right, and I put a lot of hours into this, I found it difficult to not difficult might not be the right word, but I found other Kirby games a bit more challenging and didn't have the same feel or draw that this Kirby game did, because I felt like I didn't have any kind of creative license. I put some air quotes. You guys can't see that because you're listening, but I put some air quotes for creative license because I couldn't like mix and match my own powers. I just had to, use whatever that was there. So I didn't feel like I could, I don't know, express myself. I don't know what the right kind of phrase is.
This game encourages more, it's kind of more, I don't know, mechanics heavy. It encourages you to play with the mechanics of the game more instead of just running through a level beating up bad guys.
Yeah. And so I think that this game, aesthetic-wise, is very similar, that it's a ton of bright colors and really fun, and the soundtrack is bumping all the time.
So good.
But from a kind of mechanical standpoint, I felt that the game kind of encouraged me. There would be lots of times where like, okay, this power combination wasn't doing it for me. I'm going to find a different one. Or like, I'm using... Like I'm giant golem Kirby for a while. Like, oh, there's lightning. I really like the lightning powers. So like, get rid of this one. I'll take up the lightning powers. And in other Kirby games, I never felt that draw of, oh, sweet, there's that power that I really want. I need to get rid of this power that I have because that power is really cool. And later I could combine this power with something else.
Yeah.
Where in this game, I felt more kind of encouraged to adapt my play style to use a bunch of different stuff because there were just so many different power combinations that I kind of got to be in control of that other Kirby games don't have. And so that's why, since this was my first Kirby game, going to other ones, I find the powers are a little boring, just because I don't have any control of mixing and matching that I do in this game. And so it's kind of a little weird that since this was my first kind of like Kirby experience, that now I compare all of the Kirby games to this one, where this one is much more of an outlier compared to like a lot of the other Kirby games.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about that as far as like this being your first introduction to like Kirby games and having that perspective going into other Kirby games.
Yeah. So that's because the one I played the most was Kirby Superstar Ultra.
Yeah.
Which was a remake of
the SNES one, which was just Kirby Superstar.
Right. And so that game was really, really good.
Yeah,
I put a ton of hours into that game too. It was on the DS, I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
But I just felt that the powers were kind of lame because there were really cool powers. Don't get me wrong, the sword was really great, and there was like that fighting one or the grappling one, which I really liked.
I really like the wheel Kirby.
Yeah, wheel Kirby is cool.
Awesome.
But compared to this game, I just felt like I had no control over the powers because I didn't get to mix and match or choose. It was just, you sucked up that guy, well, this is the power you get, and that's it.
It's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah. And so this game, I do think is a little simpler. Like the combat is way less challenging. The platforming might be a little more challenging just because it's on the N64 and kind of bad.
It's a little sluggish. That's kind of where I'm coming from, where like it's a 2D action or 2D plane action platformer, and I really need my controls to be tight, which is kind of where this game doesn't do it as much as the other Kirby games for me.
But so for me, I kind of expected a little more. I guess forgiving might not be the right word, but I was ready to be more forgiving on the game and just be like, hey, this is going to be like a fun kind of, let's kind of do whatever, play my own way kind of style that this game offers you, where other games are more, hey, the controls feel really good. It feels really good to play this game. There's a bunch of cool powers you can pick from and just like go have fun. Where I was expecting more kind of, I guess I felt more in control.
Yeah, but much like many other Kirby games, a lot of the draw of this game is its aesthetics.
Yeah.
And just the general vibe of it, just screaming in your face constantly for the like 3 hours long the game is. It has just the best vibes.
Oh yeah. So we got into, instead of aesthetics, more the mechanical side of it right there. But with Kirby games, it's lots of bright colors. Everything's really cutesy. Everyone has the little like blushy things on their faces. No one really has noses because that's not cute. Yeah.
Lots of rolling green hills and stuff.
Yeah. And so I also want to talk about the soundtrack, which was super good. I kind of spent some more time with it while preparing for this, and I don't know if all Kirby soundtracks are like this. I'd be curious. But the soundtrack has like a really, really fast either harmony or kind of driving beat with a snare that kind of feels like a march almost, which really, really like gives the game a ton of energy. It was like, never stop, keep going, we're having fun, like go, 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 go. But then over that, it will have a kind of like more whistling, like kind of whistle or hummable, singable melody that'll be on either like chimes or bells or kind of like high winds that sound like kind of flute or recorder-ish that give the game this real big childish feel.
Oh yeah.
Where it's way less about like dissonance or anything like that, and it's all really happy vibes and all sounds really fun and good, but it's all about this like really fast pace in the background of the game, right? So like the drums, the percussion, and the harmony will be like constantly going and fast paced, and then the melody on top that you would either sing or whistle or hum is super fun and kind of childish and giddy, which gives this whole feel of this like fast paced action while being just super fun and goofy.
Yeah, super, super cute, like Kirby. Yeah, the soundtrack is always just a big draw and a very big influence over the vibe of it. Just always upbeat and fun attitude. I actually really like there's some chiptune music producers on Bandcamp, the Super Mercado Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of they make chiptune albums for new music for those like certain Nintendo games and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like they have like an album called Another Day in Dreamland, which is their like Kirby tribute album basically.
Gotcha.
And that's a lot of fun. Yeah, those same kind of musical aesthetics.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the more I listened to this game, I went through the soundtrack and listened to a lot of different places. And in the final levels, it gets kind of funky. And in the last level, there gets some dissonance in there because it's like leading up to the final boss. And as I was listening to those and kind of the super fun poppy games from like, or soundtracks from like Popstar and that kind of stuff, it reminded me a lot of Undertale.
Huh.
The Undertale soundtrack.
I can see that.
Where I could see that the Undertale soundtrack got inspiration from either Kirby games in general, this specific Kirby game, trying to get that fun and lighthearted and kind of goofy, cutesy feel that Undertale tries to go for and then ends up subverting near the end, right? So I think that it's really interesting that a lot of these same musical themes can be seen in other games trying to promote and create the same kind of feel this fun, childlike, cartoony game is also trying to go for.
Yeah. And something that came to my mind also was like the kind of like rolling green hill aesthetic of Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that kind of aesthetic as well in something like Sonic the Hedgehog, like Green Hill Zone. But whereas Sonic's aesthetics have a lot more like hard right angles, Kirby's are a lot more rounded.
Mm-hmm.
And also Sonic's soundtrack is a lot more cool.
Yeah.
Whereas Kirby's is very cute. So I think it's an interesting distinction for something that is like has at least like a aesthetic similarity.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that will come from like the sounds that they use. You know, Sonic, well, the original Sonic is all on synths, right?
Yeah.
Where this one kind of has some like chimes and bells and that kind of stuff. But I also think that they both have that really fast-paced kind of beat in the background, but Kirby's is way more lighthearted and bubbly, where Sonic's is more like kind of like rock.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, because Sonic
Sonic
is
the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I forget what their slogan was, but it was something about being like the cool, like Sonic's like the cool guy, like where Mario is that lame-o kid baby stuff. Sonic's for like boys and teenagers or whatever.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, there's not a ton to really dig into in this game because it's just cute, fun, good old times.
Yeah.
So, you got any last thoughts or anything you want to bring up before we get to ratings?
This game reminded me how much I love Kirby. I love playing Kirby games. I actually was trying to work through all the Kirby games about a year ago. I only got as far as like I think Kirby 2 on the Game Boy. I was trying to go through them like chronologically.
Yeah.
But that does make me want to get back to doing that.
Playing those games?
Yeah, the one I am interested in the most is probably the SNES one, Kirby Dreamland 3.
Okay.
Because that's the one that introduces like all of his friends, like the hamster and the bird and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this apparently Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, is a sequel to that game. So that's why like Rock and Cutter, it creates all those little animal friends you can be because it's like calling back to the last game.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I'll need to check those out. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this game, even though I had to get my hands on an N64 through one way or another. Because I still don't own one, but it was still a fun time.
Yeah, and I will say that I think talking about it with you has kind of opened my eyes to the clunkiness of the N64.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have a lot of nostalgia for the N64. Like hearing N64, like the way it sounds and the way it looks, I still get that warm feeling in my heart when I interact with the N64. But like from a pure subjective objective standpoint when looking at that generation, it paints an interesting picture.
Well, I mean, you just have to look at the controller, right?
Yeah.
Like that. That kind of says it all.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love the control. I love everything about the N64, but man, that controller is stupid.
It's a very silly controller. It's not meant for human hands.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, let's get into some ratings.
Ratings.
All right, Noah. So Kirby, right? This is Kirby and the Crystal Shards.
Right. And
Kirby is a fun-loving, cool guy.
He loves fun and being cool.
And being cute, and he combines with, I guess, and other things to give him new powers. So I don't know if you got this by all those things that I led up with, but from 1 to the Crystal Gems,
like of Steven Universe.
Yeah,
Crystal
of Steven
Gems?
Universe, the Crystal Gems. Where would you put Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards? I don't know if that's a stretch. I tried really hard to come up with a good one for this, and crystals combining, they're cute. He kind of reminds me of Steven.
Yeah.
If Steven was a pink puffball that couldn't speak words.
There's also a lot of things in media that have to do with crystals or some sort of rock MacGuffin, so I'm just kind of cycling through all of them in my head.
But you're not thinking of those healing crystals, are you?
No.
Like those weird
No.
There's some I forget the lady who really pushes for those.
Like some kind of commercial television lady?
So there's some actress that will be like, oh, you don't need to practice modern medicine. You just need to use these healing crystals, and these healing crystals will take all your bad chakra out and really cleanse the toxins. And is this, I don't know. I listen to NPR and they make fun of her a lot.
Oh, weird.
I should know her name. I might cut this in post. Who knows?
Don't want to give your hot take of
I don't know
the
her
crystal
name.
lady.
Yeah, I should know, but
Healing crystal lady.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it a Stone Protectors, which I don't know if you're familiar with the Stone Protectors.
Oh, I'm definitely familiar with them. But you should probably explain them for the audience.
So the Stone Protectors, remember? So I'm sure
Nope.
you know. No, in the 80s and I guess the 90s, my sister had some the troll dolls, the original troll dolls, not trolls like the recent movie reimagining of the property,
but the old school
original
ones,
old school troll dolls. So those were mostly marketed towards girls, but then they came out with toys that were in the same line that were marketed towards boys, and they were called the Stone Protectors.
That's right.
And they had a cartoon.
Yeah, they did. I didn't watch it, but they had one.
There was also a Super Nintendo game for
Stone
Protectors. Yes, it was a side-scrolling beat-em-up, 4-player, because there were 4 Stone Protectors.
They're like the TMNT, but of trolls.
Yeah, so they looked like trolls, but they had extreme combat gear, and there was a whole story about they needed to protect the stones because they had stones in their belly buttons because they're trolls.
That makes sense. That fits way better than I thought you would come up with. They're
cute like trolls. They're cute like Kirby, and they're also gym warriors like the Crystal Gems. It all ties together.
That is fantastic. That is a high rating.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can rate much higher than the Stone Protectors.
So that's my rating. I give Kirby 64 Crystal Shards a Stone Protectors.
On a scale from 1 to the Crystal Gems. That's great. That is just fantastic. All right. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the game. I hope
I had a great time.
Everyone out there at least watched a Let's Play or something. They should. If you have a Wii U, a Wii, or an N64, it's definitely worth a go back. It takes an afternoon if you sit down for 4 hours to beat it.
I think on howlongtobeat.com it says it's 2.5 hours for an average playthrough. Yeah.
So even if you just play an hour, you get the game, you get the vibes, and then you can put it away.
It's a good time.
Yeah. All right, Noah, what you got for me?
So we did lots of movies.
Yep.
Just did a video game.
Yeah, we've done 2 video games now.
I was thinking, I guess we did music too, but I have been reading a lot of comics lately, and I was just kind of shuffling through my comics collection and all the books that are offered through the Comixology Unlimited program. I just kind of pull from, and I came across a book that I kind of forgot about until I saw it again and went, oh yeah, this one's great. It is a book written by Jim Zub, put out by Dynamite Comics. It is the comic book based on Pathfinder. So the Pathfinder comic book. Yeah, so Jim Zub, the writer, he kind of cut his teeth, I guess, kind of made a name for himself in creator-owned comics with his Skull Kickers series, which I think I've had you read the first volume of Skull Kickers way back, like 5+ years ago, I want to say.
Skull Kickers is the one with like the female dwarf, and
it was a dude dwarf. It was like a dwarf and a like swashbuckler with like a gun.
Oh,
I think the one you're thinking of is Rat Queen.
I was thinking of Rat Queens is what I definitely was thinking of. But now I remember reading the first at least rings a bell and brings up memories of things I can't remember.
Yeah.
So I have read Skull
Kickers,
at least a little bit of it.
Yeah. So Skull Kickers was great because it was like it reads like a D&D campaign where you're all up at like 2 a.m. and all strung out on Mountain Dew. It's just over the top ridiculous, but it still has like, great like over the top fantasy scenes. Mm-hmm. Pathfinder, I think in the Jim Zub is also like, he does tons of fantasy comics like that with that kind of vibe of like it reading like a D&D campaign. Right now he's doing actual like licensed D&D comics for Dungeons and Dragons.
That's awesome.
Based on like campaigns they're currently putting out. So it's like really cool. But before he did that for IDW, he went over to Dynamite and did a comic based on Pathfinder.
Okay.
And this one, I think, out of all the stuff he's done, is especially cool because it reads like a campaign that is starting at the very beginning. Like, it seems like these characters are first level, and they're all based on the, like, icons of the Pathfinder universe, I guess. They have like kind of their main cast of characters.
Okay.
So you got like Valeros, who's like the warrior. You got Elf Rogue, I think, what's her name? Marisol. You got Sayoni, who's the like a spellcaster. I think she's a sorceress. You got Ezrin the wizard.
Yep.
Harsk the dwarf ranger.
Okay.
Which is interesting. And then you also have Kira, who is a cleric.
Gotcha.
You have all these characters. They're all very distinct, but they all act like characters that are all very kind of first level and inexperienced, and they all talk to each other like players would in a way. Like the warrior is very headstrong. He flies into battle on a moment's notice, while the sorceress and the wizard are constantly talking strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And the warrior's just like, oh, you dumb spell slingers hanging out in the back while the warriors are doing the real work, kind of, thing.
Yeah.
Always talking about, treasure and like, oh, we killed all these guys and we just got like 2 gold coins. Well, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Characters that will like try to stealth into a place and be like, okay, I'm gonna go in there and try to like, scout it out by myself, and then characters will just show up behind them and like, did no one? Are we just ignoring the plan now? Like a lot of fun scenes like that
like remind you of D&D moments.
Yeah, so that's probably the unique thing I think is really cool about this Pathfinder comic.
Yeah.
I'm more of a D&D guy as far as systems go.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer D&D over Pathfinder. I'm not saying Pathfinder's bad. The Pathfinder tailors itself to a player that's very invested in crunchy mechanics.
Yeah.
Lots of customization. I prefer just kind of the straightforward role-playing experience of D&D. But yeah, I remember reading this as it was coming out and being surprised how much I was enjoying a comic that was like a licensed RPG property comic. So yeah, we don't have to read a ton of it. I just want you to read the first volume of Dynamite's Pathfinder series, Pathfinder Volume 1, Dark Waters Rising.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds super interesting. I almost played a Pathfinder game one time.
You ran a Pathfinder game, I believe, for me and Jordan. And your
that's what it was.
That one time.
That was for a little bit of that. Because I played a lot of 3.5 in high school and in college.
Yes.
And Pathfinder is more or less 3.75-ish.
Yeah.
They kind of took D&D, because D&D like partnered with Pazio or whoever.
Paizo.
Yeah.
Well, Paizo bought the rights to 3.5.
Yeah.
And then just like slapped a new coat of paint and setting on it.
Yeah. So that's what, because I'm pretty sure that Paizo worked with Wizards for 3.5.
Yeah. Well, people who developed 3.5
went and created.
Yeah, they worked at Wizards of the Coast and then split off and made Paizo.
Gotcha.
And once like 4th edition came out, and they weren't really happy with the way 4th edition turned out, so but they still wanted to make RPG content in the 3.5 mechanics, so they just made Pathfinder.
Yeah. And so Pathfinder is super great, but it is very, very... It allows for maximum customization at the cost of like just a boatload of rules.
Yeah, it's for a specific kind of player, and that's great. I'm glad there's
that out there for them. But that's not really for us.
Different games that tailor it to different play styles.
But yeah, I am very excited to see, because I've watched 500 hours of Critical Role, right? Like I've stopped. I haven't watched the 2nd season that much. Maybe I'll get back into it. Maybe not. Probably not. I have too many monsters to kill. So I've just consumed more D&D, kind of like watching a D&D role-playing experience, whatever happened, then I know what to do with. So I am curious to see what like a licensed experience of that written in comic form will look like. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think I'm really going to enjoy it.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's again, that's Pathfinder Volume 1, Dark Waters Rising by Jim Zub.
Cool. Well, I think that's it.
Yep.
I think we're done. Noah, I just have one more question for you.
What's that question, Kevin?
What's that question we have to ask everybody so to know that they listened to the entire episode? Because the first one is, how do you unintroduce somebody?
That's right.
That's right. That was our first question. And then we said at the end of the episode, they have to have one. What you got?
If you were to have a sandwich based on you, what would it have on it?
So, like, this is a personality quiz.
Kind of, yeah. So,
but what sandwich would you be if you were just the inside contents of a sandwich?
Well, so I'm saying like a sandwich named after you.
Oh,
like if
okay.
I were,
You're not asking like ham, turkey, bacon.
No, yeah. So I'm saying like if I were to like walk into a deli and tell the person behind the counter, "Give me a Kevin Land," what would that sandwich have on it?
Oh, so you are asking like what's
on a Kevin Land if I were to go into a deli and order that?
Gotcha. Well, we will tweet out what is on a Kevin Land and Noah Stewart after this drop. We'll do it. We'll wait like a day or so, right? Yeah. So we can feel those, see who really listened all the way to the end, and then we'll let the world know what's on us. I'm also gonna try to do the same thing I did with the Miku, and like, how many comics is the first volume, right?
Of Pathfinder?
Yeah.
It's 6.
Okay. Well, as I read, at least at the end of those, I'm going to try to summarize some thoughts, or if there are fun, interesting things along the way, I'll try to kind of tweet out my experience with while I'm reading it, kind of keep everybody connected with as I go. So if you want to somehow get your hands on this comic book as I read it, apparently it's what?
It's available for free. Well, if you have a Comixology Unlimited subscription, it's available on there to borrow. It's available at your local comic book shop.
Yep. And
I think you can just buy it through Comixology digitally as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we'll do that. Let us know what's on you, sandwich wise.
Yeah. And then maybe throw an opinion of what you think is on us,
sandwich wise. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. Tweet at us at dude_check_this. You can also send us some emails at dudecheckThisOutPodcast.com, which I forgot the password to.
At Gmail.
At Gmail, thank you. What I just said, dudecheckThisOutPodcast.com.
Yeah.
At gmail.com. Yep. You're going to have to remind me of the password to that email because I don't remember it. But that's fine. We have it somewhere written down, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, tweet at us, hit us up, let us know what you're thinking. I think that's it. Noah, you got any last words to the audience? You only get 4 last words, and then we're gonna be done.
I like spicy mayo. We'll take that into consideration.
You can't say anymore.
You can't
say anymore. You're done. Those are your last words.
Don't like my sandwich.
Those are your last words. You can't justify that. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Do you like spicy mayo?
I love spicy mayo.
Huh.
A good aioli.
Ooh, aioli.
It's great.
Isn't that just like mayo and
with stuff in it?
Yeah.
Like a different flavor besides mayo.
That's right. That's not. I don't remember who I was talking to about aioli. Was it you?
Maybe.
I think it was Pat, and we were driving back somewhere, and I thought it was a vegetable.
Aioli?
I forgot
what kind of vegetable is aioli?
So, like asparagus.
What did you? Yeah, I was like, what did you see in your mind's eye?
I think
when
I
you
saw
thought
asparagus.
aioli was a vegetable.
I think I saw asparagus. I like asparagus. I know what asparagus is.
That's fine.
I think I saw somewhere between asparagus and like Brussels sprouts, which are two very different things. But somewhere in between there, I thought was aioli, but it's not. Aioli is nothing like those.
Less a vegetable, more a condiment.
Yeah, well,